I a good evening. Somehow I have never forgotten that I went live. Somehow I'm kind of amazed at that reality, I guess, or no? That seeing that I don't know if it is that common. I just know people that have said, oh yeah, I have been sitting there uh, doing my whole thing and never realizing that I didn't press the go live button or yeah, I mean, I can see it happening a little bit more with the stuff like recording. I remember the YouTubers I did watch say it a lot that since putting the program to record and letting it just record was such a normal thing, it was kind of complicated for them to really observe if they were recording or not. It just could happen that they did stuff without realizing. Did stuff and not record it without realizing. That's the point, I guess. But yeah, anyways, uh, good evening. Welcome to this, the last stream in a row before I need to take a break. I was already thinking about it before, and yeah, very probably, as soon as I can say it, the better. Um, Organizing oneself is kind of complicated, and in this particular case, it shouldn't be that hard to simply set things up in order to be capable of managing time properly and not feeling so disoriented. It's it is still just Tuesday, I think it is. So we basically have a lot of the week in front of us. And I don't know, being honest, there is so much time remaining in this whole year. It's kind of amazing that I I reckon I didn't expect this year to feel so long. Last one is what it was so much different. It was so incredibly long. I I felt like it was never going to end. But this one is this one is going pretty slowly. I think so much stuff is happening always in this time around that yeah, uh, it feels like there is just no downtime. Last one compared to this one had too much free time. Anyways, welcome Lesbian. Good night. Since you are close to almost going to sleep, good night. Hope you're doing well. And yeah, here we are. Here we are. What's okay? No, I cannot remember it properly. It was such a good meme. It was something like, "Oh boy, hello boy, he is here." Something like that. It was so amazing. uh, yeah. But don't worry, it's fine. It's just before I forget to say it, or I end up losing myself on my thoughts later on. Like it tends to happen. Uh, but anyways, welcome. I hope you're doing well. And yeah, I don't know. There are always things to talk about. We're just, I guess, in setting up. Is setting up the proper meaning? I don't think so. We're just getting a start. It also doesn't feel right. It's not like, oh wow, yeah. It goes from I don't know, a 50 on energy to a 300%. Wait, being quite honest, it's just speaking, so it doesn't take that much. It's to some degree something funny, something wonderful. It is that in reality, most sentences are all the same. So unless you're purposefully creating something that is heavily loaded with meaning, most things, the moment in which you analyze them or compare their symbolic value, they are all the same, even if the topics are all different. So yeah, in that sense, we can say that we are kind of remaining in a very similar level. Also because I, I don't know. I tend to say that I wish it might just be a way to iterate a personal limitation of I might not be that good at handling even more complex levels of language, so I end up just here talking always with very similar words, rearranging them in a way in which it just sounds different enough, but themselves are always the same ones. I mean, I don't know that idea of the human has a limited lexicon, something like that. There are probably like only 3,000 or being wide with I guess 10,000 words being at use here at all times. At the best 10,000, I assume. But anyways, uh, that's that's just like a tiny observation. It doesn't really change anything. But what I wanna say, I something funny. We are here. I can mention whatever. There is something that I don't get still. I was trying to talk about it with one of. I have a subject. It's psycholinguistics. What a wonderful subject. Not, but the idea is there is an internal language that exists inside of any mind, and uh, it has diverse categories and whatnot, but there is one that pertains to processing and creation or manufacturing, so to speak. It's not like creation in a sense of, wow, yeah, we are creating new symbols. We are just manufacturing messages. That's the basic idea. Inside of the mind, you learn to process what you have the inputs, and you also are responsible for making the outputs. And something that I like is I had a question, and I like when somehow something that should be like an obvious question to try and tackle isn't present at all. Not just in the program, I haven't found a proper response. Trying to look for it myself. Um, Theory. Uh, this next thing is important, not. But theory. There is this thing of every single kid develops the capacity to understand symbols. That's something I kind of mentioned yesterday. The importance is words are symbols. That's why it's such a necessary step in the development process. More important thing, more symbols of higher complexity relate to even more symbols of lesser complexity in order to relay more meaning with a lower degree of symbolic usage, so to speak. You can convey with one symbol many things more than what would be needed to communicate the same concept with the whole chain of symbols that could also represent the same thing. Inside of this process, it happens also that the mental capacity bases itself on something very funny. You have a lot of compression and shortening of stuff. The internal language utilized in communication and whatnot allows for a lot more of rapid movement of ideas because you don't need to check so much what you are thinking. You are just capable of thinking, so to speak, and you understand what you are thinking because you possess the. It's it's not such a necessary part to mention here, but it's about how you can just know that what you have been thinking is related to the next thing that you will, and so on and so forth. But the important thing here is in itself the capacity of doing that. It isn't really clear, it seems, at least to me. I asked that, and the any kind of source that I ask, and even more the guy who is in charge of teaching the lessons was like, "What the fuck are you asking?" It should be kind of obvious that the more complex degree of symbological function a human has the capacity to access, the faster the way in which they can organize and be capable of moving through thoughts. Let's say, if I don't know, if you think about a boat, for example, you don't need to recall what is every single part that comprises a boat to understand what is the symbol of boat. Even if it is just being represented in the most basic form of the word that we use in place of a real boat, you can call out onto your own imaginary, I guess it is the word, what is a boat. The problem lies in how this thing does not seem to be so much of a properly discussed idea. I think it should be a necessary conversation to be had. Because if I don't get it wrong, then I'm pretty sure something like properly being capable of understanding things, in even more in the degree of language and whatnot. There is a main theory that basically talks about how most people, once they develop, they can't lose the capacity to think with words. So, inside of that same theory, it should be an obvious conclusion that it should be observed as a possibility to keep on developing oneself's capacity by simply acquiring even better ways to think about stuff based purely on the symbols that you use to represent things. The more complex and concise symbols you have at hand, the better you should be capable of traversing the whole ordeal that is created in terms of trying to find ideas in general that you might be interested in with not just precision, rapidness. It's something we seem to be living in a society in which being and doing things rapidly is important. So it should be like a necessary discussion or something that we should be more focused on, yet somehow we don't even have an investigation or something like that, I guess. But yeah, I haven't. I won't lie. Yeah, probably ever since I realized about that, I have been losing some degree of sleep about that question, and also the reality of why the fuck nobody tries to talk about that. It should be it's a followable conclusion that anybody can reach once they get the arguments displayed in front of them if they never truly thought about it in that way. We are creatures of language to some degree, so we are bound to language. Important reality. We have come to a point in time in which we have so much language available to us that we can represent many complex ideas with just one particular word for things. In that case, that's where the symbolic function enters into play, because if language is the requirement for the symbolic function itself, the capacity for you to understand language lies upon the capacity to be capable of grasping anything that is conceptual. If that is in that order given, then it shouldn't be something so wild to find out that yes, indeed, it, it is possible for you then to deal with more things, not just because you understand more, but also because the tools that you already have for dealing with the things that you already know gets perfected. It's, so to speak, you get more detail with the tools that you have in hand. If you need a comparison, we have come from having just a rough draft of something like a motor for cars in, I don't know, I don't even know the proper time, like 1800s, I think that they were invented, something like that, to the complexity of something like I don't know, an Audi motor, so something of that sort of complexity. Yet at the same time, we're not even saying, yeah, it is the reality. You can use it in a proper way. It's just we like to just do it in a way that is insulting. Oh wow, yeah, this person isn't as clever as me. They don't have access to this word that is used on a very specific niche and that nobody else could ever be capable of understanding, because even the definition is hidden if you are not part of that niche. So it becomes a sort of useless, yeah, in general ordeal. It's kind of sad to see that what we could have as such a wonderful thing has become that. I don't think it's, in that sense, such a proficient thing to leave it there. I think I haven't, in general, this year, I guess I have, since I have had so much more free time, I haven't spending it on revisiting older ideas, and it has been fun to see that we indeed have so many more possibilities of development than what I previously thought. We are really on an era in which things are waiting to happen. We are doing a lot of stuff. We are, I don't know, healing diseases. We are treating conditions and whatnot, and that is fine. But we also have a lot of, so to speak, available steps into what might even be considered an evolution, and we're not even trying to capitalize on those things. So I don't know. It feels weird. It's always this thing of it, to some degree or other. It feels weird. It's just the reality of sitting around and thinking about it that makes it more apparent. But at the same time, anybody could see them. I don't think it's just, oh wow, yeah, a visionary. I even, oh man, I even had a sort of conversation about this earlier. Not exactly on this line, but man, we have so many things always to do. We have, there was this discussion about, in, I wish it it could be in a simpler term, to not say, oh wow, yeah, it was indeed a kind of complex, but it was basically summarizing the importance of what we target in like 2 hours with my family. To some degree, we always carry some degree of baggage from what is our past, unavoidably. What is the tradition? What are the roots that we have inherited from the people who came before us, unavoidably? It would be kind of stupid to say that we don't. But the reality itself is, we also have enough awareness to realize that. And it is at this point that we can deal with actions that could lead us to move forward in a way in which we will feel ourselves with our own subjectivity, okay, or keep on for some reason extending what has just been inherited, and what we might live on for the next generations for no reason other than just this same tradition. At some point, we don't really have that much of an adherence to what is true tradition. We are not part of such a culture that cares so much about that. It's weird to see that we are still doing so many things that when we look at them, actually, we cannot explain the reasons for them, or if we are capable of doing so, we can only realize we are doing them because they are things that came from other people, but even so, they are incredibly bad for us. It's crazy to see that as such. It's such an enigmatic era, I guess, if you want to say it in any way. It's just that. It's a puzzling word. That's another way to say it. There are, I wouldn't say problems, not problems. There are many threads from which you can start. What's the word? Pulling and find out stuff. It's just the awareness that we have to see them and to yet not do anything about them. That's what feels weird. But I don't know. I think it's fine. I think, if nothing else, I I have had this whole conclusion. I guess, sadly, it seems so far from like 30 years and so on. At that point already, most people have already given up on those hopes of making the whole world different. So, at least from that point onwards, it's unavoidable to say, yeah, people have not not given up in a negative sense, just refocused on something that feels more correct to someone who isn't capable of bearing the whole load of the world, so to speak, or believing that they have the capacity after having tried to some degree, believing that they don't have the capacity to do so. It becomes better to just focus on tinier things, on the tiniest molecule that you can correctly deal with in terms of this whole, not this system, but rather this whole world. That's one thing that you can do that feels right, at least. Or that if it doesn't feel exactly right, it feels like, oh yeah, it's something that I can at least not fail at. So from there on, I think so. Most people get to, if possible, just keep on moving. But everyone else, what I was trying to say, 30 years older, it happens. Unavoidably, you realize, yeah, at this point, I cannot start a whole revolution. I am already kind of late. But the people from I am obviously being arbitrary with the cutoff, so I would assume be 25 and younger, if they have even the capacity to realize about their own capacities themselves. At that point, there is a gap in which people can start doing things and commit themselves to such changes. The issue is, I guess, being capable of surviving all of that. Not the common word is there is pushback. I do not like that. The reality is we are accustomed to things. There is fear. There is so much fucking fear. And I remember doing what we were talking. We're not being capable of expressing true things ourselves. In so many cases, it's confronting reality is horrible. I cannot truly say to somebody, oh yeah, you know what? I just speak because I fear the silence. I would rather sit here and speak for 6 hours straight than to have to sit for 6 hours in silence because I fear that I might go crazy if I were to just deal with the silence. We cannot have such levels of honesty. It's never something that is seen as proper, even if it is in the best way in which we can express what is truly going inside of us. So there is always some degree of transformation or transposition of what we are doing with what we are intending to say, and or what we truly mean when we say something that doesn't have on a surface level any sense whatsoever. It's it's annoying to find out, oh yeah, I am here every single day because I just love it. No, you certainly don't love the things that you do. In the case of you having fear, you're literally mortified of the opposite. You would rather do something like this than to confront your fear. And in the submission of something of that sort, you have become not weaker, as if that was something bad. You just have surrender what is your spirit for the sake of saving yourself from a possible negative backlash that might come. And I don't know. I I just think people still, even if we cannot be in that sense honest, we cannot be direct about what we are experiencing most of the time, and as a sort of implied conclusion here, unavoidably you need to learn how to pick up what is being said, what is the subtext of what is being talked about. What is the subtext of what is somebody saying? You cannot make a proper reading of this stuff in many cases. You cannot make a plain reading of what is the message. Even more so in daily life conversations. That is the funny thing. Most people allow themselves to say, without, obviously, without directly hinting at that, many things. And the instant in which you become aware of how to try and not to be completely capable, to try and decipher what could be the underlying true message, you get to see a different world in which actions become a lot more possible. It's this, at that instance, I think it becomes this, I guess, issue of the revelation that is in front of you and the possibility of either you can do something about it or you can just abandon the ship. And I don't, there is something that also I do not like because I have been avoiding mentioning it at this whole time. You can take some degree of ownership and say, oh yeah, this belongs to the science of, I don't know, uh, I guess it would probably be best suited for psychoanalysis, I guess. This whole idea of how or yeah. Anyways, the point is, it belongs to no man. It's something that everybody can do to some degree or other. You just learn more how to do it more consistently enough, and that's it. This whole over specialization that exists make it bad for people to realize that they have always the possibility to deal with the issues that exist around them in a proper way. It's this necessity to separate and make as overly specific as we can things, not ideas. We have a thousand ideas. I have been even talking about it before. I am completely in agreement with we should have as many ideas as we can, and we should be capable of letting them have as much complexity as possible. That's fine. That's wonderful. Even the issue is we shouldn't try or we shouldn't allow ourselves to let the complexity of the mind take over the rest of the world. I I will jumping to the final conclusion. Even I will go as far as to say, if it were to be possible for us to return to what could be the closest to a more natural state of things in which there are just, I don't know, basic groups of humans, of people. I guess it would be carers, people who take cares of stuff, gatherers, people who gathers the resources for the carers, and everyone else who is just, I don't know, somebody who exists. It will be easier to get into stuff. It will be easier to do stuff. I think it has certainly been a funny thing to see how the very same line of, oh yeah, we follow traditions and we follow what's this and what's that. Many people, I wouldn't be capable of completely betting with my mind completely on it that if most of the human population were to be given the possibility of completely changing something like the system in which they exist, they will not do it. I'm pretty sure most people will be willing to change stuff, will be willing to make, at the very least, some minimal changes. It's almost impossible for people to just want for things to stay the same in terms of their overall wishes. Certainly, everybody wishes that everything, if nothing else, stay the same. If the other consequences that they get worse, oh, for sure, things should just remain as they are right now. But it's this weird, I guess, acceptance of, oh yeah, it's better to not do anything of that sort. And I don't know. I just see it as we live so much. We live for so long. We have so many things always to do. And to some degree, I would even say, in this whole game of existence, the list of things that one should try to do keeps becoming longer and longer. And I don't know. Also, what's welcome, all day. Here we are. It's just me going crazy, I guess. Uh, Talking about this stuff. I hope you're doing well. Have a good evening, night, morning, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Um. Anyways, I was saying I could try to do sort of quick rundown. Um, Traditions and how we like to stick to tradition, I guess. But basically, it's what I was trying to get at is Funnily enough, I think most people don't not that they don't like in terms of I will see it as have become complacent. I think that's the word. Have accepted, have settled down with the what we have around us, the system that we have, the different. I don't like it because it's to some degree a meaningless way of seeing things, but it's the general arrangement of systems that we have around us that makes it more and more complicated for us to ever enjoy being in this current day and age, or to be in a way in which you feel satisfied, let's say. And it can be from the most basic level of just the system of the family to the system of the highest echelon possible that the person can still feel a part of. That could be the whole, yeah, idea that we have now created of what are these ways in which one is being still, no matter how you can paint it as something better by saying politics. It's government. It's always government. It's still being governed by something. But I don't know. Um, Savage conclusion, or possibly a bad line. That guy who said that the man is not suited for governing itself did an irreversible damage. The moment in which you instill such a belief on so many people, I can see how it becomes so complicated for people to enter into such a struggle. That whole idea of the struggle for power and the will to power and whatever of, oh yeah, there are some people, everybody could be fit to be the leader of the human species, but there are some people who are more fit than others, and maybe, and just maybe, if I try very hard, I can become the very best, and I can reach a place in which I can exert my abilities, and not just demonstrate, but also be capable of changing things, and having those who see me exert myself recognize me and validate my power because they see that my actions are indeed what I promised and blah blah blah. This is all in any kind of way of going about this whole discussion of governing cultures basically at that level. And it's just I don't know. The point the real point tries to be it's just all weird. Let's say it like that. We are still okay. I certainly I am being delusional, so but I don't know, man. I want to believe things are going to get better. There will be something else that will come to replace what we have right now. It 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 isn't that useful to have so many people dissatisfied. It's there are so many things that we have right now that we truly do not have any kind of necessity for. That's what makes it so complicated. I think that's what makes it so unenjoyable. It's it's that accumulation of things that makes it more and more to some degree bad. It's just I don't know. I was yeah kind of on that same line. I was today. I was trying to watch something, not specifically anything, but just trying to watch something, and it's so funny to see. Besides the things that I should be watching, besides the stuff that I should be consuming to keep on learning and keep on, I don't know, moving forward with the rest of the stuff. There is so much nowadays. I don't want to say it in an insulting way, but meaningless created stuff. It's kind of sad to see how much we keep creating that doesn't really go anywhere. There are, I don't know, certainly, unavoidably it is insulting to say it. No matter how I try to paint it as, it is still insulting, but there are so many great minds, I think, that could be doing different stuff instead of, I don't know, 1,000 videos covering something that happened. I certainly, despite my best wishes of, yeah, I just need one that covers the whole thing, and that's it. Most people don't do that. Personal biases make makes covering any kind of thing almost an impossible task when it comes to having complete neutrality on that topic. Sadly, it doesn't happen. But man, it could be tried to be done. It could be an event that could benefit the stuff. Here we are sitting in. Anything happens, and we can have 1,000 different aims from that. And I don't know. It's just the way in which we like it to exist. In revolutions, yeah. Such a crazy thing. I don't know. It's everything. More than an illusion, a sort of dream, a sort of hope, I guess. Uh, but yeah, that's the thing. What I find myself when I explore that sort of outside, how much emptiness we have in that sense, how much nothing you can consume every single day in terms of, I don't know, radio. What's white noise, radio noise, that sort of stuff is what we are truly making. I once again, it doesn't make any sense. On the other hand, sadly, most of the people who are around those places are already, I said it before, very, it's insulting to say old, but already very defeated. That's a more fitting term. Very defeated, and the experiences that you had in life show you, yeah, what I am already too far behind the whole rat race. I cannot try to make anything new. It's not my decision to make. It's not my time to be spent on doing anything. It's not my need to try and change the stuff. It's not my sacrifice to be performed to try and fight for something that might not even end well. So I might as well just stick with, instead, at the very least, surviving. And at the very least, I will find the type of noise that I like the most. Instead of it being white, I can find pink noise, I can find brown noise. I can find green, I can find blue, I have the whole rainbow of noises to pick from. Which one is the one that makes me the happiest, and which one is the one that gives me the most noisiness so that I can ignore anything else but that? And after that, it's unavoidable that the loops. At that point, it becomes a closed loop. I mean, I don't know. Probably most of the people who are having kids, at least nowadays, even more nowadays, are becoming increasingly older. On one hand, it's such a good thing that we stopped having children at younger ages consciously, but on the other one, it's also more what I was saying before. Defeated souls are having children, so this same idea of seeing the world as such a bleak reality, such a dark, oppressing matter that I cannot myself deal with. I can just struggle in and do my best to survive in. End up, I, I, I don't know. I don't think it's an illogical conclusion to say end up bleeding onto the future generations that come after that. But I don't know. I mean, it's just one doesn't truly want to hope that to some degree. I I like to talk about all of this, and it's always yeah, I say it, and for sure, I hope the complete opposite is the true. I hope that we are indeed slowly changing, and we are indeed getting more and more capacities. On the other hand, for example, something that I did so that was kind of, I wouldn't say completely uplifting, kind of uplifting. It still is questionable. Do we really have the possibility of taking as many advantages as we can of that? But finally, sadly, I don't live in a place in which it is that normal to have the more advanced types of technology. So you end up finding out that indeed it's not so bad to try and instill the, if nothing else, the newer generations what the possibilities of technology are. I remember something about that, that I heard about. In many cases, what you can do the best if you want to change a society or make sure that a society gets moving onto a new trend, you influence first and foremost the children, because children have that relentless spirit to keep telling their families that they want something. And if they get that new shiny thing, you also are playing on the curiosity of the family itself, implying that they at all care about the children, what they need and what's not. So you get the children interested in something, and after that, you get everything else moving. And certainly, I don't know if we have that many resources. I I don't think we aren't showing that many possibilities in terms of economical power in right now in these places in general. Many families don't have that pleasure, but still, reality is, even if right now we don't, 10, 20 years from now, the kid grows up, and one of the many wishes that they gets to satisfy is, oh well, even if I didn't get to have my toy, now I was 10 when I visited that thing that talked about technology. Now I can finally give my children something that is related to technology. Now I can finally make my inner child happy. And in that way, we are sort of moving towards somewhere better. But it is still very slowly. I, I think we could be going faster. If it is that we are going anywhere, we could be going faster. It's, I don't know. Supposedly, we are already close to the era of the first human who will not die will be born if it has not already been born, because we will finally discover immortality, supposedly implying that women survive, implying that we don't have war and whatever. So we are kind of doing well in that sense, but at the same time, we are moving so slowly, it might not happen. And not that one truly wishes for immortality. On the other hand, the whole of humanity is not ready to have this discussion about why dying is sort of necessary. But the point still is, man, we still have so many more problems to solve in the way of reaching that. It's not even funny. It's not a prospect of, oh wow, you are every day closer to paradise. I don't know, man. At the best, every decade, we are slowly moving forward, but the day to day doesn't feel that much impactful in the overall picture. I mean, certainly it's not to discount the individual and whatnot. Certainly, getting to have a nice life is well. Getting to have a roof over the head is nice. Getting to have a bed in which one can lie comfortably in is good. Getting to have technology, getting to have food, all of those things are good. But after everything is satisfied, going to that Maslow's hierarchy of not just needs, things, there is that other level, that upper highest level. You have your mind that also can be not just entertained, used for stuff. It cannot be that we're still having so much nothing. What I said before, so much pure noise. It's we are so good at creating games. That's something that I am still angry about. We are so good at creating games, yet we haven't made to yeah, we haven't figured out a proper way to gamify more as many things as we can out of reality. We're still struggling with basic concepts like being responsible and whatnot. It should have been solved a long time ago, man. But anyways, that's what I was thinking about. And yeah, I don't know. I I will certainly say I don't think that people are not ready to be eternal. I just think there is, let's say like this, many people will realize at some point in that whole thing of living forever that sadly eternity makes things a lot more meaningless. The prospect of having so much eternal stuff makes it not so enjoyable. Everlasting stuff, it's not so nice in some way. And I don't know, I mean, I get to be positive, I also get to be negative. we also still have, as I said before, 1,000 different issues to deal with before we properly reach that point. We're having not just micro or nanoplastics, the most common thing to say. I remember I watched that documentary that Veritasium released some time ago. I think it has been like a week, at best a month ago, about how one particular company created these PFAS, I think they are called PFAs compounds, that whole group of stuff that is also contaminating us. We also have the whole contamination of the world, the many losses that we're still suffering from what is the proper production of oxygen and whatnot. Something, yes, something that I heard that we are not still even properly discussing the degree to which we are contaminating the oceans and the importance that it has on stuff like algae that produces most of the oxygen that we really have. We don't get that much oxygen from plants. We get most of it from stuff like algae, and that stuff is truly getting affected. And we cannot see that because we don't even have proper technology for that. But anyways, it's things will go in the right direction supposedly, and even if they don't, that's the other funny side of the coin. You may not be alive to see it, so quote unquote, who cares? Who cares if my grandkids have to live with a fucking gas mask on their face 24/7? Who really cares at all? But anyways, that has been most of the stuff that I have been thinking this whole day, I guess, between yesterday and today. It's it's such a wonderful thing, and I don't know. It's just crazy. I mean, on the other hand, also, it has been funny to see how many needs are also in that same line of noise. There is so many things that one doesn't really need. I think I could slowly start to live a better life if I just were to dispose of many of those quote unquote needs. I would even say, but I don't know, and it's just on the other hand, being tempted and whatnot, whichever way you wanna say it. Of oh yeah, there are many things that seem enticing that you could do that could bring some minimal degree of satisfaction onto life that you could keep on doing and that you could keep on having and whatnot. And the reality, at least to me, doesn't seem to require all of that stuff that much. Being is a lot easier in many cases. And I mean, what I was talking about before, many of the stuff that has to deal with just the issues that we have, the way in which we have to deal unavoidably with other people can be solved a lot more than what we are capable of properly saying right now. It has it has been such an intriguing thing to see how we like to say so much that it is impossible to navigate the current world. The what is it? The interconnected present has made it almost impossible for anyone to enjoy being themselves freely because everything is being monitored not by a proper big brother but by just the other that might go against what you say and condemn your actions. And I don't know, man. I think if most people give themselves enough time, it's just to realize why many things are the way they are, and you can function avoiding doing what is wrong, and the things that you can see are kind of unnecessary to have. You can properly mention and deal with. Not just, oh wow, yeah, being censored. I don't know. It's just an annoying. Yeah, it's just an annoying thing, man. That we're still talking about how conflict is such a need, yeah, an unnecessary thing, and it's something that we should always be trying to avoid. Conflict is the worst thing that will happen in anything, and I don't know, man. I kind of mentioned that already. We live in such a quote unquote scientific era. It should be obvious that we need a previous thesis, antithesis, and the conflict that exists between those two things to reach the synthesis of anything. There is no way in which you can get to a better place without before realizing that you were in a bad one. You know, if you're always acting like everything is fine, life becomes bad. Certainly, in many cases, you could say, "Oh no, yeah, yeah, I don't need to acknowledge this stuff." But the reality is, it just makes being worse. It's it's such a bad reaction most of the time that whenever something bad happens, one tends to just ignore it. That's something that I don't like. How much? Oh yeah, we're in this scientific era, and we are in this moment of sort of this new enlightenment. The human has finally understood the necessity for technology, the necessity for inventions and whatnot. Yet we are still here struggling with, yeah, man, and also the necessity for conflict, brother. You cannot keep avoiding things. We do not grow if we keep acting like not like everything is right, like nothing is going on. Meme of there is no war in Basingse, basically. But who knows? To some degree, also, once I'm netizen, like it makes no sense. It takes too much energy. We have already failed. Why try to acknowledge the issues? Maybe we will only gain pain and whatever, so better to be hopeless and assume that one is being correct out their predictions than to have hopes and risk getting hurt because the young heart can only take so many cuts before it falls apart or whatever. So, yeah, I guess to police themselves. Also, sorry, people took it upon themselves to police themselves. Yeah, certainly, sadly, but that's what I was mentioning also. Not that it is impossible to do it. In most cases, you can see why certain policies exist. It's funny to see that. It's not like, what? This thing is so incredibly stupid. Why do we have this imposition? No, man. You stop being realistic. 1 hour of reading, one hour of properly investigating, most of the time solves your need for an answer as to why you have to follow this special rule. And after that, you are already informed. And in the case of you being incapable of following it because it makes no sense whatsoever with your, I don't know, personal judgments, you realize something funny. There are also ways in which you can try to fight back. there is a proper way to reach a resolution in which this thing can be in the way you see it as good. And it just requires time, but we are no more in a time in which sadly everything is just as what one very specific group has decided. It's better, so to speak, in the grand scheme of things, to blame a very specific group of people, but sadly, the individual has a lot more agency now, more than ever. Sadly, the person is not so much incapable of having the life that they want, because everything else is impeding them from having such a life. It's crazy, I guess. It's crazy to be existing on this time. It's just, I will say it in this way, we have gained so much freedom that it justifies why so many people feel lost. We have moved, I don't know, in like 200 years or so from these whole systems in which so much violence, unjustified violence, was used for everything. That now that we have finally understood minimally the usage of thinking and whatnot, we stand here and ask ourselves, what the fuck? I can live my life, and if I see something that I don't like, I can try to change it? Wow! Impossible, man. Cannot be. Also, mucho texto. I like to imagine that the average person is getting wise to the self-policing thing, at least on the internet. Cheat and Discord can only enforce their TOS. If the people themselves enforce it, these companies don't have the manpower to do it. Yeah, I mean, you can only. I am mostly being positive. There is the unavoidable, what is it, black swan of this whole reality. You can have bad faith actors using it for malicious purposes. The degree of the degree of importance that individuals can have makes it so that people might be capable of altering what others can or cannot do too much. But that is also why the regulation amongst ourselves, amongst peers, is such an important thing. Because you shouldn't be capable of just abandoning your responsibility to call out bad faith actors. It has become an increasingly more evident thing that we can do a good job at keeping ourselves regulated, and everything else doesn't need to be something bad, doesn't need to be transformed into something dangerous, let's say, something that is in any way damaging to the wholeness, or if it were to be damaging in a way in which something is truly lost. It's just restructurally hurtful because it is highlighting something that was bad but that needed to be fixed. And in order to be fixed, the damage needed to be done. So I don't know. We are no matter. I don't know. People likes people get so angry about it to some degree. Oh yeah. We are getting censored. We are every closer to the big brother. No man, I'm pretty sure we did a good job enough at keeping ourselves away from that. If nothing else away from that. I certainly can't say I look at those things, and the only one it shouldn't be any surprise that I mentioned that guy at this point. Huxley was probably a lot more right. The degree of noise that we have is so funny. The degree of noise that exists around that of that stuff is so incredibly funny. The degree of noise that we like to have is such a such a good joke, I guess. How much we like to have things that don't mean anything. Things that are just there to justify other things that, if we were to look at them in the void of nothing, nothing else, it would be so stupid. And I don't know, it's just a complicated, intricate web of not lies. Certainly things exist. We have things that have no usage that exist, but it's just convictions that we have had over time about how stuff is meant to work, let's say, and how stuff should work. But I don't know. We are fine. We are fine. My real conclusion is that we are fine. We are just standing very lost, but we are very fine. And people just, I guess, if nothing else, needs to realize that we are fine. I think, yeah, things of this sort can allow you to minimally evaluate and see. Even even if I myself don't feel the best, there is something that makes me feel good when I can see that the whole world is not burning down. There is something funny that happens, some sort of chemical gets triggered inside of my brain the moment in which I see that my life might not have the best shape right now. Okay, as many other people do also, but the whole world, everything else that is besides me, this whole concept of, if you want another way of saying it, the other with, what is it? With a, with a I am fucking out the word. You know what I'm trying to say. The other, besides the self, is fine. It's not such an enemy, such a negative thing, such a bad thing, such an insulting thing to talk about. The other is not so bad. The world is not burning down. It is, reality isn't isn't falling apart, I guess. Or I don't know. Certainly, not gonna lie. We can only say it because we're standing here, believing that we have to some degree the truth. It will be sad to have lived life in a completely different pattern. Just now, have to do with a very similar sort of realization in which the world has changed so much that what I used to know can't anymore hold me on it. So that's also some advantages of being young, I guess, that we can still figure out how to fit on this land, I guess. But yeah, people just over exaggerate this stuff. That's how I will say it, and that's how I would frame it as. People just gets lost on things, and it isn't like it doesn't make sense. It's just today, for example, I was saying earlier, I was talking with my family, and sometimes this whole tendency of being anxious about stuff, getting preoccupied and whatnot, is so prevalent that without anything truly happening, one is so ready to let's say go all in into water that everything gets overblown out of proportions. And even if life is fine, even if not just the rest of the world is good, but even if the life that I am having is good, even that doesn't feel that way because I start to drown in just a cup of water, so to speak. That's one of the best expressions in that sense to talk out the issue because you don't even know if it is that you are minimizing yourself too much, that you are literally with just some drops of water getting so overwhelmed. It's the issue of there are so many ways in which one could truly somehow find themselves drowning in such situations, figuratively speaking. And I don't know. It's not like I don't get why we don't talk about that. It's just the habit of how once again I have been already defeated many times. It's better to get alarmed and start running in all directions before anything bad happens than to have to deal with the consequences of bad things happening because I might not have been capable of seeing them coming. But I don't know. I would say it like this. I think it's a certain loss of the spirit of calmness. It's too much thinking that bad things might happen and seeing them happening in the mind rather than just seeing that they might happen and preparing a plan in case for things or in case of things going badly. It's just assuming the worst always. It's I even I at this point I am even lost myself. I, okay, let me fucking search that up right now. Because I think one of the best ways to express that whole stuff, that whole tendencies, was instead of this movie. It was Interstellar. It had a very particularly good message. Let me. Murphy Law. Everything that could go bad, it truly is anything that could go bad. It makes sense more in the other way. Anything that could happen might as well happen. It truly feels like we see everything as just the negative. It's just stuff might happen, and it's okay that things happen. If it doesn't need to be said, if nothing happens, life is boring, man. We get to be entertained because stuff happens. We get even on this allegory of noise. We get to be to keep our attention on the noise, not because of the consistency of it, but because of the tiny moments in which the noise that we love so much changes in some way. The minimal alterations that it has is what makes the noise entertaining, no matter which kind of noise we like to consume. And out of nowhere, well, on one hand, we live with that. We like to tell ourselves that, oh no, yeah, but things are the only thing that can happen around my existence, and bad things are the only thing that I can have, and the only part that I can enjoy, and blah, blah, blah. And it's so weird, man. I don't know. At least we're enjoying the process of being, if nothing else. But yeah, that has been, for the most part, the stuff that has been occupying my mind is I just if I had to be honest, I just keep wishing more people had the pleasure of thinking in general. That's, I guess, the final note. It's stuff of this sort that makes it better to continue. It's on the other hand, going back to the system of, oh yeah, yeah, the things that are bad are happening around me. I don't know, man. You look around, you appreciate things are, but things certainly are happening. But even worse things are happening, and thankfully not around you. And so many also good things are happening. Reality is such a great mixture of stuff that sometimes we lose ourselves too much only on the noise and too much on the dark side of what seems to matter that anything else can't be taken into consideration as we should try to do. And I don't know, it just happens. Unavoidably, it just happens. That's how we deal with things lately. But change is always possible. That's that's the proper way to say it. The world is still very young. There are many ways in which things can always go in a better direction. It's too early, yet time is old because the moment in which you close your eyes and throw yourself into the void, it does not get better. If it weren't even for 1 second more of that thing which makes your heart beat to continue, it would all be not so worse. So yeah, enjoy life, I guess. That's that's my final message. XT. Also, yeah, yeah, yeah. Good night, good night. Sorry, sorry. Good night. I said myself, I always want to get lost at whatever the fuck I was saying. Good night. Ah, but yeah, no idea. That's it. I- yeah, I don't know. I keep finding that it happens to me. At some point I find peace here. I just I say it. Oh yeah, I don't. I might not come here in peace, with peace, but it's consistently enough happens for me to notice it, and that's funny. I don't know. On the other hand, I certainly do look around and see so many people who can only end in distress and whatnot. It's crazy, man. It could be such not just an enjoyable thing. It's not like I don't get the release of neurochemicals that happens when you get scared or when you get angry or when you get any other kind of emotion. But that peace seems different. It's puzzling why so many people don't seem to go for it, I guess. And yeah, it's obviously being facetious in that sense. It did make sense. In itself, it's a reasonable proposition that people will not be interested in pursuing anything like peace. It's kind of very similar to what I said before. You want peace, you need to have a little bit of war before that peace. So If something hasn't happened, then it hasn't happened. No reason to despair and overthink. Yeah, yeah. That's the reality. Um, it's just how easily we like to go not just into a bad mental place, but even into the worst side possible that we can when we try to talk about this stuff. That makes it even more unenjoyable. And yeah, kind of in line with what I was saying. Sadly, it isn't like it is not justified. It is the same thing as people not being capable of pursuing something like peace. How can you try to pursue peace if you need to have so much conflict before that? If you need to go through so much, it's complicated to say it because you say conflict, you say war, you say discussions, whatever. That's not a proper feeling that one can picture. So much distress, so much anxiety. It needs always to have so much displeasure and pain in itself needs to be had. Always there is some degree of that needs to be had. And that's what makes so much people being capable of realizing indeed things are not so bad. Indeed, things are not always chaotic. So it's just crazy. But I don't know, it's life, I guess. That's the benefit of even if one is not taking the for what I could classify as quote unquote the best decisions, we can still be around. We can still do whatever we want. We can still enjoy being beings of this world and whatnot. It's an overcomplicated way of saying stuff. Otherwise, you can still struggle, but you can still have so many troubles and be, and that's the fun of this. It's I don't know what I was saying earlier. We're kind of failing in some vital areas. The game of life itself is such a fun thing, even when the pleasure itself is not pleasant present, and we just forget about that. I think just the whole process of being alive, entering a more automatic mode, removes from you the capacity of awareness that comes with the happiness that you feel. And I don't know, man. It's just what I wouldn't say that's the most basic declaration of the sort. You can think yourself into nervous or you can choose to not do that. Yeah, certainly. Certainly, certainly. I mean, that's if you know your limits, you can always manipulate yourself around thinking and whatnot. But if not, sadly, you need to struggle a lot, and then you need to have 1,000 different breakdowns before you understand why it happens. But like in any other practice, I guess, if you don't get some bruises, you cannot learn how to go on the vehicle that you are trying to learn. If you don't make some mistakes, you cannot learn how to drive your mind anywhere, let's say. And I don't know. What's the point of having a mind if you are not going to use it? ah, but yeah. Uh, I know I was trying to say something before, but also it might as well be just a man there. I don't know. It left my mind, so yeah, whatever. We're fine, so whatever, man. Anyways, what I don't know. That's what feels nice about being here. That it, always it feels like both things at the same time. Eternity in a second, and not just a second in eternity. That's that's the funny thing of dedicating the time that you have to the stuff that you like. That both sensations meet with each other, and it just goes. That's also the unending. Once you experience that, it's the unending. Also doubt as to why other people can't seem to experience that. But it's still the same thing as recognizing issues. It's yet another type of issue, yet another type of looping which one finds themselves to be in. It takes too much work to find properly why you are enjoying the stuff that you are enjoying, and how can you ensure that it keeps happening. It takes too many variables to be capable of driving the ship that is your life into a place in which it feels good enough. So just not just reacting, but just dealing with what comes towards your way is better for some people in that case. Not that it truly is better, but it feels better. Too much work to do anyway, so use that mind to think of ways to bring your friends. Certainly. I mean, laughter is so much a necessary remedy, but at the same time, I don't know. Also, there is something that I think. Ah, finally, I am reminded of something that I wanted to mention 1,000 times already. Obviously, uh, hyperbole, but uh, ever since like a week ago, I wanted to mention that I saw that said a very short but concise idea. Many people who struggle a lot have a fucking huge dark sense of humor, and it is correlated with the laughter that comes with that. It has to do mostly with how, when you laugh, it activates a certain part of your brain that allows your whole body kind of to disable these negative sensations that are coming. And I think that sort of comedy, the sort of comedy that can make even the most depressed person of the best ones. And that's complicated to make because dark humor is only capable of doing that. Light-hearted jokes are not so good at that. I don't know. Uh, there are only so many ways in which you can say "so mama" before it gets old. before you can already break the next pattern. So it's in that sense, comedy is such a radical topic. Not because it truly is impossible. We're not talking about the context or whatever, or being capable of making a joke without making anyone angry. Not that shit. Just making something that can make anyone laugh is complicated in that way. And I don't know. It just happens. Most of the funniest stuff truly is just reality in a twisted way. And I mean, nowadays even more. Reality doesn't even need to have that extra coating of weirdness, of meta commentary about it to make it funny enough. The whole world has so many funny things going around. Not because they are funny in themselves, but because the absurdity of what they are makes them funny. I mean, I don't know, that sort of the edge between the craziness of the world and the true fun that is to be part of this, to see that everything everywhere at once, that expression here of we are having so many symphonies going on around the world about so many things, yet not because one exists, the others disappear. So that's why this world gets to be, if nothing else, such an entertaining reality. For sure, it cannot be said that reality is not entertaining. The one who says that has failed themselves to find what can make it be for sure an enjoyable thing. Because, hear me out, man, reality is the most perfect thing that there is in terms of how much entertainment it can produce at any time. For now, anyways. I, I, I am happy. So yeah, that's all I can say. I am more than happy. Also, I kind of avoided thinking about it the whole day. And right now it's kind of fucking late, but yeah, I have responsibilities tomorrow. What fucking time is it, man? Question mark? Uh, it's sort of not so late. And yeah, something funny. I even got to rest in the wonderful nap in the middle of the day, so not so much to worry. But yeah, that's even something that I was thinking about. It's such a sad thing to see how many people would use some sort of break from. It isn't like to some degree, obviously, it will be very illogical to say reality and dreams are the same thing, but the reality of the dreams also needs to be had from time to time and to jump onto that ship, to have that pleasure of experiencing rest in that way. It is such a sad thing to see that people can avoid, actively avoid in ways. It's sadly, I mean, it is still the same thing, man. It's the same root of the problems. Too much work to be done. So many nightmares take so much unraveling to be understood and to be properly challenged. But we 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 can just stay happy that if we do not have nightmares, we have nice nights of sleep and rest and recovery and whatnot ourselves. The, the, the freedom of not being weighed down by a pain and the liberty to not feel any sense of responsibility over those who do, to believe that we have the necessity to assist the other who might find themselves in pain. So yeah, uh, the real point was just napping is good. Naps are god godly. I like how somehow they don't have that expression on English. How the fuck did of someone from a completely different language figure out to say, yeah, something is god? Why don't they have that expression on English? Something is so good. Equals something is god. But anyways, the many troubles of speaking a different language never stop surprising me. So yeah, whatever. But yeah, I guess being honest, I guess that's it. I I do feel satisfied with this, so I should take my leave before it is even later. Um, okay, I was thinking about it last time, or not last time, before I started. To some degree, it is just me finding a way to fit in a more kind of yeah, too much honesty on one hand that I don't feel happy having, but it's just that honesty. Uh, it would have been healthier for me to continue doing stuff very early. Reality is, I can go to bed later by doing this, and it feels a lot more justified than if I were to just wake up early to some degree do the same thing. So maybe an excuse, maybe a proper change in the systems. Who knows? I mean, not who knows. The reality is, if nothing else, I am here. So compared to saying that I will be in the mornings and not even waking up, so much better. It's just trying to find a way in which one can function freely enough within their own limitations is complicated. And also being capable of recognizing that sort of stuff. I don't know if I started by saying it, but unavoidably, today I am also fucking tired. Every single day I am tired. So yeah, it's an unavoidable reality that stuff of this sort takes a little bit of a toll. You cannot avoid it, no matter when you try it. So, what can we do about that, man? It's just something that you accept as a part of the process and not much more. But yeah, that was sort of the internal struggle slash excuse to say, oh no, yeah, this is over. But anyway, tomorrow, tomorrow I'm busy, so yeah, tomorrow, thankfully enough, that there will be no stream. Thursday, that's a real incognito. I don't know. I guess if anything comes up, I will probably have written something by Thursday in terms of what I wanna say. Probably. If not, I will see. If not, I will probably continue with analyzing the series and whatnot. That I said I should continue. Uh, yeah, okay. I think I said it here before. So something funny, something very useful, something very interesting, very amazing. Psychology fact. Whenever you think about throwing a coin, or whenever you actually throw a coin, there is a sort of subconscious process that is, while the coin is in the air, and you try to decide, or if you have even more decided, which thing goes in which face of the coin, you subconsciously are made aware of what thing you want the most. You aren't really capable of deciding. It's the moment in which you're confronted by randomness that you become truly aware of your true interest. But you can also sort of live the weight of choosing between those things, or having to accept that you are choosing over two different things that you should not be conflicting over, and you kind of abandon that by taking whatever the coin decides. But in most cases, what can be done is, if you're willing to do it, you flip a coin, you realize what you want, and you forget out the fucking coin. The very same thing here. Mental flip of a coin. I don't really want to continue the analyzing the lectures right now. That will be for later. I shall continue with the Mahabharata. If anything else, I shall continue with that. If I am going to analyze anything, I want to continue reading that to begin with. So yeah. Anyways, I said it before. I do have nothing else to say. So that's it for today. I am satisfied. Thanks for everything. It has been a wonderful night. But yeah, I I will. Is the proper expression to say I will keep to myself? I don't think in this context it is, but yeah, I will. I will see to round up around here. So yeah. Anyways, thanks for everything. It has been a very wonderful night. Yet again. See, yeah. Good game. Good. Good the other word with chi. Mental chi. Eh, anyways, let me first and foremost, I should check before actually doing it, just in case. People to raid? Are there people that I do know that I can raid? I have one in mind. I wanna see, are they still around? I'm going to fucking shoot. They are not around. Okay, yeah, they are. We are so fucking back. The moment in which the choice that you want, meme, the choice that you want, is the one that you can take. The rubbing hands emoji. Anyways, have a good one for real now. Let me set up the right and whatnot. But meanwhile, thanks for everything. When Thursday, um, but until then, keep. And I mean, even if we don't get to see ourselves, keep yourself safe. Thanks for all. It has been a pleasure to be here. Uh, and yeah, we will see what happens next. Also, let me check. Is this the correct term? Wait. Aha! I knew it was wrong. I need to add like a what? Uh, different. Oh, why? Why can it autocorrect? Why do I need to write it by hand, man? When I can't be lazy, I hate it so much. Anyways, yeah, as I was saying, thanks for everything. Has been yet another pleasure our night. Uh, whenever we can, we're getting back here. If not, it has. It doesn't remove this from being such a blessing. So yeah, thanks for all. Keep yourself safe. Smile. Be happy. Think. Do stuff. And yeah, thanks for all. Now, uh, uh, now onto something completely different. Flower. Playing something probably. So yeah, that. Go. Entertain yourselves. And now I have to get up from my fucking bed. I fucking hate this. Ah. Anyways, it was fucking starting to make my fucking noise hard. I had like too many. What's the word? Pillows this time. What a guy. Also, I didn't disconnect the fucking mouse. Oh,